It's official. Vladimir Putin has a new problem, and it's not on the front line. It's 1,500 miles away, coming straight out of Britain's defense factories. The United Kingdom has just launched one of its largest military aid programs since the Cold War, a long-term weapons pipeline to Ukraine that's reshaping the battlefield faster than Moscow can react. This isn't symbolic, it's strategic. Over the next few years, London is committing a staggering £3 billion every single year to arm, train, and modernize Ukraine's forces until at least 2030. That's not a one-time donation, it's a full-on defense partnership. By early 2025, the UK has already delivered an arsenal that reads like a small nation's entire defense catalog. Over 1,000 air defense systems, 5,000 multi-role missiles, 60,000 artillery rockets and shells in just 50 days, and millions of rounds of small arms ammo. It's a fire hose of Western hardware pouring into Ukraine, and Russia's generals know it. You can almost picture the scene in the Kremlin. Putin demanding another special operation to deal with it, while his ministers quietly calculate how many more tanks they'll lose this month. Now, to understand just how big this is, we need to rewind. When Russia invaded in 2022, the UK was among the first to send lethal aid. Those British NLAW anti-tank launchers helped stop Russia's armored thrust toward Kiev. Then came Storm Shadow cruise missiles, giving Ukraine its first long-range strike capability deep into occupied territory. Even the Challenger 2 tanks, once dismissed as too advanced for Ukraine, rolled east. Fast forward to 2025, and Britain's not just sending weapons, it's building an entire ecosystem around Ukraine's defense. Think of it as less aid drop, more military alliance in progress. One of the most significant developments is in air defense. Because let's be honest, that's where Ukraine's survival hinges. Russian missile barrages have been relentless, and the UK's answer has been just as aggressive. So far, Britain has delivered over 1,000 air defense systems, including ASRAAM and the new Gravehawk missile system, a joint project with Denmark. Gravehawk isn't your typical launcher. It combines radar, infrared, and electronic warfare tracking, able to intercept multiple targets simultaneously, including those cheap Shahed drones Russia keeps sending by the hundreds. And yes, it's working. Ukrainian officials say interception rates have jumped dramatically in sectors covered by UK-supplied systems. The result? Russian missile attacks that used to devastate cities are now meeting walls of fire before they even reach their targets. But Britain's not stopping at defensive systems. It's helping Ukraine hunt back. Over 600 drone systems have already been supplied, and another 100,000 are being produced or funded for 2025 and 2026. That includes reconnaissance drones, one-way attack drones, and even autonomous quadcopters designed for trench warfare. Many are being built right in the UK, with Ukrainian technicians trained to operate and maintain them. Now, this next part isn't just impressive, it's industrial warfare at scale. British and Ukrainian engineers are establishing joint drone production lines inside Ukraine. So, when a Russian jammer tries to cut off a signal, Ukraine doesn't have to wait weeks for replacements from abroad. They just build more. The shift is obvious. Ukraine's defense isn't just being supplied, it's being sustained. And that's what makes this different from the early days of the war. Because back then, every missile launch was a balancing act, every shipment a political debate. Now, the UK has hardwired military support into its annual budget. The war in Ukraine isn't just a foreign policy issue anymore. It's part of Britain's national defense planning. And nowhere is that more evident than in artillery and ammunition. The numbers are staggering. 60,000 artillery shells and rockets shipped in 50 days. That's more than some NATO countries can produce in an entire year. Add to that nearly 5 million rounds of small arms ammo, and you start to understand how Ukraine has managed to keep its front lines firing without pause. Russian soldiers have been complaining on intercepted radio calls that Ukrainian artillery never stops. That's because, thanks to London, it doesn't have to. Of course, no amount of artillery matters if your troops can't move or survive on the battlefield. That's why Britain's been quietly reinforcing Ukraine's ground and naval mobility. Over 50 armored vehicles, including upgraded T-72 tanks, have been delivered. Alongside that, and this often goes underreported, are tactical boats for river patrols and mine countermeasure vessels for coastal security. These ships may not look glamorous, but they're the backbone of Ukraine's new naval resilience, especially around the Dnipro and the Black Sea. When Russia tried to reassert dominance in the Black Sea late last year, Ukraine's British-supplied fast boats were part of the reason Russian naval movements slowed down. That's not speculation. It's been acknowledged by UK defense officials. Meanwhile, back in the UK, the training never stops. Under Operation Interflex, over 58,000 Ukrainian troops have now been trained across British bases, from new recruits to combat engineers and medics. The scale is huge. What started as a crash course in basic tactics has evolved into full combined arms coordination training. These are soldiers learning NATO doctrine, battlefield communication, and advanced weapon handling, knowledge they take back to Ukraine and spread across their units. It's not just a pipeline of weapons, it's a pipeline of experience. Even more interestingly, the UK has signed maintenance and repair contracts with defense companies to set up forward support in Ukraine. That means British weapons can now be serviced locally with no more shipping damaged gear back to Europe. You can see the pattern forming here. The UK isn't just arming Ukraine, it's helping rebuild its defense industry from the inside out. And while Russia's economy is stretched thin, with sanctions biting and production lines struggling to keep pace, the UK's defense sector is booming. Now, before we go any further, yes, some of this is also political theater. Britain's leadership wants to signal that post-Brexit, the UK still matters on the world stage. But that doesn't make the weapons any less real, or their effect any less devastating for Moscow. The UK has positioned itself as Ukraine's most consistent ally after the US, and unlike some European partners, London hasn't wavered. So let's talk about electronic warfare, the invisible battle that's quietly deciding who wins the skies over Ukraine. Since late 2024, the UK has been supplying advanced electronic warfare and radar systems capable of detecting, tracking, and jamming Russian aircraft, drones, and even ground-based signals. The key here isn't just brute force jamming, it's precision. British systems use data analysis and AI-assisted pattern recognition to locate Russian electronic emitters within seconds. In plain English, they can find where a Russian drone operator is hiding, even if he's sitting miles behind the front line, and guide artillery straight to him. It's a harsh reality for Russia's army of jammers, which once prided itself on blinding NATO equipment. That era's over. And it's not just defensive tech. Britain's new Gravehawk system doubles as a data node, linking radar, artillery, and drone feeds into a single combat network. That kind of digital fusion gives Ukraine a version of what NATO calls multi-domain awareness, knowing what's happening across land, sea, and air in real time. When paired with British-supplied drones, this means Ukrainian commanders can see Russian movements almost instantly and act before the enemy even finishes deploying. Now, to be transparent, exact battlefield data is classified, but UK officials and independent analysts have confirmed that Ukrainian interception and strike efficiency has improved dramatically where these systems are active. From an analytical standpoint, and this is partly my opinion, Britain's focus on electronic warfare is setting a new standard for Western aid. And that's where the conversation shifts from equipment to strategy. The UK's approach is systematic. It's not just about giving Ukraine weapons to fight a single war. It's about transforming Ukraine into a modernized, NATO interoperable military, one that can defend itself indefinitely. The scale of Operation Interflex proves that. Nearly 60,000 troops trained, with expansion underway. The next phase reportedly includes pilot training for F-16 integration and advanced cyber defense education. For Putin, this is a nightmare that grows each month. Every soldier Ukraine trains in the UK comes back more lethal, more professional, and better organized. Every new batch of drones or radars sent from Britain means more lost Russian armor. Meanwhile, Russia is running out of options. Sanctions have gutted its access to microchips and optics. State factories are forced to retrofit Soviet-era tanks, sometimes from the 1970s, while Ukraine receives cutting-edge Western hardware there with full logistical support. And that's not propaganda. Those are facts confirmed by open-source intelligence groups tracking Russian production. What makes this particularly dangerous for Moscow is the tempo. Unlike many of its European partners, Britain isn't delivering aid in hesitant, symbolic doses. It's doing it continuously, almost industrially. New shipments arrive as old ones are used. That consistency keeps Ukraine's defense stable and Russia's planning unstable. In essence, the UK has turned its defense industry into a wartime production line for Kyiv. You can see this in companies like Thales in Belfast, which manufactures the lightweight multi-role missiles with more than 5,000 of them already committed to Ukraine. Or BAE Systems, now investing in local facilities inside Ukraine to maintain vehicles and guns on site. It's a kind of partnership we haven't seen in decades, with a Western ally directly helping build a war economy within a non-NATO state. Now let's talk about the strategic impact. Every British missile or drone sent to Ukraine doesn't just defend a city. It forces Russia to spread its forces thinner to protect assets it once thought were safe. Long-range Storm Shadow strikes have already forced Russia to relocate critical depots hundreds of kilometers away from the front. That's fuel, ammo, and command posts that no longer operate efficiently. In other words, British aid is quietly rewriting Russia's strategy. And here's where the humor fits in, not the goofy kind, but the dark kind. Imagine Putin's generals briefing him that yet another ammo depot just spontaneously combusted somewhere deep in Crimea. That's roughly how things have been going lately. And while it's tempting to think this is all just a UK versus Russia issue, the truth is broader. Britain's ramped up support sends a clear signal across NATO. There's no fatigue here, no retreat. London is saying, if Washington hesitates, we'll hold the line. That message matters because even as US domestic politics occasionally complicate aid packages, Britain's consistency provides a backbone for Western unity. It's also good economics. British factories are busier than they've been in years. Jobs in defense manufacturing have spiked. This isn't altruism, it's strategy wrapped in pragmatism. The government gets domestic industrial growth and global influence in one package. And strategically, it creates what some analysts are calling the Northern Arsenal, an informal defense axis connecting the UK, Sweden, Denmark, and Norway. These countries are pooling technology, radar networks, and logistics to guard Europe's northern flank and funnel aid to Ukraine faster than ever. All of this, of course, adds pressure on Putin, because while he can still throw manpower into the fight, he can't outproduce or outmodernize a coalition of advanced economies. His best factories are running 3 shifts a day and still can't meet demand. Western sanctions have crippled microchip imports. Tanks are being assembled with scavenged electronics from washing machines. And yes, that was confirmed by EU investigators. The contrast couldn't be clearer. Ukraine's getting smarter weapons. Russia's just getting older ones. And that brings us to the heart of the story, Putin's dilemma. He can't back down without admitting defeat, but every escalation only deepens Russia's losses. Politically, the Kremlin insists everything is under control. But behind the scenes, military bloggers and even pro-war commentators in Russia have been complaining about catastrophic attrition. The Kremlin recently had to deny reports that it was cutting defense spending for 2026. But even some Russian economists have hinted it's inevitable. Their budget simply can't sustain this burn rate forever. Now, I want to be precise here. There's no official confirmation of a Russian spending cut yet, but economic indicators, including the ruble's decline and falling oil revenues, suggest serious strain. That part's an analysis, not a proven fact, but it's consistent with what multiple independent experts have been warning. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, Britain's aid continues to tilt the scales. Sweden's bonus shells, Germany's Iris-T systems, France's Caesar howitzers, all of them work better because Britain helped coordinate training and supply chains behind the scenes. The UK isn't just sending weapons, it's amplifying everyone else's impact. And that's what Putin can't counter, because no amount of manpower can outfight coordinated Western logistics. The deeper issue for Russia isn't losing tanks, it's losing time. Every month, Ukraine's army grows more advanced, more autonomous, and less dependent on Western advisors. At this pace, even if the shooting stopped tomorrow, Ukraine would emerge with one of the most combat-hardened, technologically integrated militaries in Europe. That's the long game Britain's playing. By locking in long-term funding through 2030, the UK is ensuring that even political shifts in other countries can't derail Ukraine's defense. It's a statement not just to Moscow, but to the world. This war won't be won by attrition. And as much as Putin likes to project strength, his options are shrinking fast. He can't risk a wider war with NATO. He can't outproduce the West. And he can't convince his own people that things are going well forever. Not when videos of destroyed Russian convoys keep appearing online, often courtesy of Ukrainian drones marked "Made in the UK." So when Britain's defense secretary says new deliveries are planned in the coming weeks and months, that's not routine policy talk. It's a warning. The flood isn't slowing, it's rising. And as it rises, so does the pressure on Russia's already fragile war machine. The story isn't over yet. But one thing is clear. The longer this goes on, the more Britain's fingerprints will be all over Ukraine's eventual victory, in the skies, in the trenches, and across the Black Sea. For now, Putin can keep calling it a special operation. But to the rest of the world, it's starting to look more like a slow-motion collapse, engineered not in Washington, but in London. Because when the UK decides to fight indirectly, it does what it's always done best. It builds, it trains, and it quietly makes sure the other guy runs out of options first. And that's exactly what's happening here. The empire may be gone, but its resolve clearly isn't.